Good evening, everybody, and welcome to On the Grill podcast. I am not Corey Hopper. In fact, I don't know where Corey Hopper is. He's gone missing for the time being, but maybe he will join us very shortly. If not, we'll have a short, sharp, and sweet On the Grill this evening. Thank you for joining me. We'll have a bit of a look at last week's rounds as usual. We'll have a look at the week ahead, and then we'll get primed for what is looking to be a big weekend of football. Thank you for joining us. Of course, last weekend was an interesting round. We went down for the match of the day down to Hylton Moore Oval. We saw three games down there. Started off with the Women's Cup game, which was an entertaining game with the Terrigal Avoca Panthers running out winners 8-56 to Warners Bay 2-14. It was a game played in good spirits. Both teams played really well. Terrigal Avoca got the jump on Warners Bay, ended up cruising home fairly comfortably in the end. It's good to see the girls at Terrigal Avoca. One of the first time I think we'd seen them play for the year. So great to get down there and see that. Out at Killarney Vale, the Killarney Vale Bombers 164 defeated the entrance Baddo Bay Blues to 1-6. Good to see the entrance Baddo Bay scoring a goal there, but unfortunately Killarney Vale, as we know, one of the very strong clubs, too good for the entrance Baddo Bay on that one. Out at Pasterfield, it was a similar story, a very one-sided game there. Cardiff Hawks taking care of the Singleton Roosters, 11-10, 76 to no score. And I don't have the score at hand for the women's game between Newcastle City and the Maitland Saints. One would suggest that Newcastle City won that game. I don't have the scores to give you at this point in time, but pretty sure that's what would have happened there. Looking ahead to what we've got coming up with the women this weekend, we've got Newcastle hosting the Terrigal Avoca Panthers at the #1 Sports Ground. We obviously saw on the coverage last week Terrigal Avoca have a good win over Warners Bay. I don't know I have the players to be able to handle the Newcastle team. Obviously, Newcastle, one of those top-tier teams. I think they'll run out comfortable winners there. Down at Fan Oval, we will have quite an interesting match. Warners Bay up against the Maitland Saints. The Bulldogs have been a little bit revitalised this season and showing good signs under Amy Pittman. They'll have a good challenge on their hand, though, with Maitland. They're obviously a team that's got a lot of work ahead of them, but nonetheless, they've got a lot of spirit and a lot of fight, and they'll take things up to the Bulldogs. I am tipping the Bulldogs to win there by a couple of goals. Over at Killarney Vale, before we get to Killarney Vale, that is going to be our match of the round game. Before I get to that, we've also got at Baddo Bay Oval, the entrance Baddo Bay up against the Singleton Roosters. Both of these sides really, I suppose, fighting for that 4th/5th spot. As Cori discussed last week, there are not a huge number of teams now that will make the finals, but both Singleton and the entrance Baddo Bay were in Cori's list last week. So this is a good test for both of those teams. My money is going to be on the entrance Baddo Bay, but not by much. Singleton have been good this year. We'll see how they go against the entrance Baddo Bay, which will take us to our Bar TV match of the round, which this week is Killarney Vale Bombers at home against the Cardiff Hawks. Now, this is a very exciting clash because we've got two of those top-tier teams, both in what is some pretty good form. Obviously, Killarney Vale undefeated. Cardiff have won their last 5, I think it is. So both teams in red-hot form, and it's going to be possibly a muddy game with the oval condition being pretty chopped up from a couple of weeks ago. Be interested to see how that pans out with the actual game once we get down there. So going to be a real interesting game. For my money, Killarney Vale probably just going to be a little bit too strong for the Cardiff Hawks, but it will be a real test of where the Hawks sit this year, and if they can match it with the Killarney Vale Bombers. So tune in for that one. That is 12:30. That will be live and free and in high definition on Bar TV, bartvsports.com.au. You guys know where to go. Make sure you check that one out. Over in the men's competition, last week we had another good round. Out at Maitland, the Saints hosted Newcastle City. We did speak last Friday about hoping for the sake of the competition, maybe Maitland could take it up and maybe get the win over Newcastle City. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. They did go down 2012-132 to 6-6-42. So Dusty Spriggs' boys are not able to continue the form from the week before. They had a big win, going down to Newcastle by a significant margin. Over at the entrance Baddo Bay, however, Baddo Bay Oval was a different result there. That was the first win to the entrance Baddo Bay for the year. They had a absolute cracking game. Started off with a relatively big gap against the Killarney Vale, but Killarney Vale finished fast and ended up creeping real close at the end. Final score was 13-4-82 against Killarney Vale Bombers 12-6-78. So congratulations to the entrance Baddo Bay. Really fantastic to see them get their first win for the year. Obviously, we know they're a club that's building in the AFL, Hunter Central Coast Black Diamond Men's League. They will continue to grow, and it's great to see them get a win. Then in our match of the day coverage, we were pretty excited for this one. The talk beforehand was that Warners Bay had recruited a few new players that were going to be quite an interesting bit of a mix for the Terrigal Avoca Panthers. In the end, though, it was the Panthers who did it relatively easy, 7-10-52 to 3-5-23. That game was played in the rain. Terrigal Avoca, obviously the wet weather specialists. I think that's now 6 or 7 of their last 8 games that have been played in the rain. It was also the first chance they had to play 2 games back to back. So recording a couple of wins in those games as well. And they're sitting pretty comfortable towards the top of the table. So a real change in form from their early season form when they were a little bit stop-start. But they're getting into the swing of things now. They looked really good. Warners Bay weren't able to get it together on the day. A few new players, as we mentioned. Listen, it's not the end of the world for Warners Bay. They did have those new players, and it's always hard, I feel, to get those players to gel in wet conditions. It was a challenging game. I think on a dry day, they'll be a much better team. The players will get to know each other a little bit more. They'll get to work together and watch this space. The Warners Bay Bulldogs, obviously, on the march as well. Looking forward to the week ahead. Speaking of the Warners Bay Bulldogs, they are hosting at home against the Maitland Saints. So Warners Bay really needing to win that one to keep up in their top 4 spot there. They should be too good for the Saints. The Saints on their day, though, however, can certainly match it with Warners Bay. We saw them last year get a couple of wins over the Warners Bay Dogs. Warners Bay have improved this year. This will be a really good test for where they're at. They need to be taking care of the teams below them on the ladder, and then having a bit of a hit out against the teams above them where they get the chance and running it up to them. So this is one of those opportunities. Obviously, we've seen Warners Bay knock off Cardiff earlier in the year. How they go against the teams below them is going to be a real test for them. So Warners Bay should get that one done. My tip is they will by about 4 goals tomorrow. Newcastle City hosts the Terrigal Avoca Panthers at number 1 Sports Ground, 3:00 tomorrow afternoon. That promises to be a fantastic game. A couple of teams sitting at the top of the table, and there's no love lost between the big team of the Central Coast against the big team of the Hunter Valley. They are 2 of the best. They love slunging it out, and they'll get that chance tomorrow afternoon at number 1 Sports Ground. Listen, not having seen Newcastle City now for a few weeks, we've not had them on the broadcast for a while. I will say Terrigal Avoca looked really good on Saturday, despite the conditions being pretty wet. Newcastle City, however, are a strong, solid team. They're playing great football. I think with the home ground advantage, I'm going to tip Newcastle City there. But that one really is going to be a tough game. You could also argue that the game we're covering for the broadcast, so that is at 2:30 p.m. From Adelaide Street Oval, could also be another one of those games. Killarney Vale, whilst they are down towards the bottom of the table, they know how to play big-time footy, and they'll have to tomorrow against the Cardiff Hawks. So that should be a very entertaining game as well. Cardiff should, on paper, be the team to beat there. They're certainly in some good form themselves, stringing together a couple of wins, coming off the bye last week. So they'll be fit, firing, and ready to go. Killarney Vale, of course, coming off that loss to the entrance Baddo Bay. So they've got a little bit to prove. They will need to make sure they've got their stuff together. So that is the wrap up for this week. Apologies for the solo show. It is just myself today. We will have Chop back next week, I am sure, and hopefully Ashley as well. Whilst we're speaking of Ashley, a shout out to him. He has been given the opportunity, not of a lifetime, because he's got plenty of these opportunities ahead of him with the quality of calling he's got. He's calling a game from McDonald Jones Stadium tomorrow. So shout out to Ashley. He's been you'll be seeing him not on the small screen but on the big screen pretty soon. So we wish Ashley all the best with that tomorrow. Cori and myself will be at Adelaide Street tomorrow. The two games, I believe we've also got Ollie Croft there sitting in the box with us. The two games, 12:30 p.m. for the women, 2:30 p.m. for the men. Make sure you join us there. bartvsports.com.au. Go to your AFL tab, click on those links, watch those games. They're going to be a lot of fun. They are live, they are free, they're in high definition. I'm Shane Darwin. Enjoy your Friday nights. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.